We are afraid to talk about dying. We need to start the conversation to restore grace and dignity to the final stages of our lives.
Dying involves much more than the death of a body. It's the death of a person and a death of a spirit, and that person and that spirit has so much to share in those last days, weeks, or hours. My name's Michael Barbato. I've been practicing for a bit over 50 years, initially in general practice and then in consultant practice, and for the last 30 years been intimately involved in palliative care. A lot of our helplessness around death and dying these days is because we haven't seen death and dying. Being there to see how profound and sacred a time that can be, the mystery around death, the all that goes with it. I don't believe we should shield people from death and dying. It's part of life. It's the natural culmination to this life.
I'm Dr. Maren Cooper, and I've had the privilege of caring for someone I love as they died. My husband, Mark, was 24 when he died from leukemia. I was 22. Mark had chemotherapy and radiotherapy for 9 months, so when it came to New Year's Eve, we wanted to get out of the hospital. His favourite nurse, Chrissy, wheeled him to my car, and I drove to a little park where we leaned against the car together and watched the fireworks. And when I took him back, I knew he would be okay because Chrissy was there, and she would sit with him and just be there all night if she had to.
The art of being there is just that, being there. It's not what you can do and what you can say. It is just being, and being essentially involves nothing to say, nothing to do, just the space that you create between yourselves. Silence is the most profound form of communication, and we don't give it the respect it really deserves.
Years later, I became a doctor, and I travelled to India to join a rural palliative care team with Saroj Singh as the palliative care nurse.
मरीज़ों के साथ काम करने के लिए मुझे बहुत खुशी होती है कि मैं उनके साथ काम कर सकती हूँ, जो बहुत दुख में है, तकलीफ़ में है और बहुत दर्द उनको है, तो मैं उनके साथ काम करती हूँ, मुझे अच्छा लगता है अभी। आई एम हैप्पी माय वर्क। हर दिन गांव जाते हैं, हम ज़्यादातर कैंसर पेशेंट को देखते हैं और उनके घर में जाते हैं हम लोग। एंड फर्स्ट आवर विजिट फॉर पेशेंट्स हाउस, I build the relationship.
When I worked as a volunteer, particularly in Cambodia, people in those countries don't have the luxury of the type of medications we have. But what impressed me that these people could still die with such grace and dignity.
What I learned from watching Saroj and her team is that spiritual care begins with basic physical care. Washing bodies, dressing wounds, clipping toenails, and giving pain relief. Spiritual care begins when you do these basic physical things for people, and even because you do them.
When it comes to spiritual care, we're talking about care of the spirit. And The spirit is as individual as fingerprints. And their spiritual life may be as simple as riding a wave, going to the beach. The joy and liberation they get from that. It might be having a veggie garden.
I was diagnosed with a pancreatic tumour growing in the head of the pancreas. I had a very good GP at the time, and he was bold enough to call it. Even after the first ultrasound, I'm like, well, what's the fuss a bit? And then it soon dawned on me that you know, it's terminal, it's not curable. I distinctly remember walking down Katoomba Street and having this thought of, are you ready? And that stunned me and stopped me in the street, that thought. And I still have a very clear memory of it because I really had to take on what was happening. And so from there, I felt quite, I felt ready to die.
Some people will never talk about their dying and never talk about their death. A lady who I'll call Rose, just to make it easier for the storytelling, a true story. She had often been said to be in denial because she would never talk about death. One day, Rose said to her only daughter, I think Tony will come tonight. Tony was her husband, who had died unexpectedly, suddenly, a month or two before, from a heart attack. And when she said to her daughter, I think Tony will come tonight, the daughter was stunned, but said, and Mum, what are you going to do? And she said, I think we will go dancing. The story is, Tony and Rose, for their 50 years of married life, had gone dancing every Saturday night. Guess what happened that night? She died. She had known all along that she was dying. Only she knew the reasons that she didn't want to talk about it. Is allowing people to die their own death and to do it the way they are most comfortable with, not to do it the way that I as the doctor or you as the partner or the child of that relationship should think how it should be done.
I find the hospital environment is not restful, it's not peaceful. I'm much more at home here with my earthy natural environment, which I've lived in, throughout a life. Although my movements to date allow me to flop from one couch to another, at least I can do that outside. And I'm connected to this and it's peaceful. And I'm peaceful here. And I'm happy here.
There's a busyness around hospitals, a busyness that has led some people to liken it to an airport, that things are happening and there's no space just to get your thoughts in order or to really feel what's going on. And fortunately, that's what palliative care can offer, time, space, where you can spend with people just to get to know them and then to get them to get to know you, build up a trusting relationship and ultimately to the point where they start disclosing things that they've never disclosed to anyone else before. The closer someone gets to death, the more the conversation is with themselves than it is with other people.
I really put down my sword with this, and I think that's made a difference for me in that it's allowed more of that peace to be here. I can actually allow myself to rest deeply in myself, and that feels an okay way to meet the end of life, really, and that I have a desire to meet it, not a desire to run away from it or hide from it or cringe from it in fear. It's profound, it's beautiful, and it's horrible, and it's hard. It's not pretty.
3 days before Mark died, he wanted to go to a healing service. And at that service, I prayed that he would be healed and would die. I thought he had had enough. It took me years to admit that to anybody because I felt like I'd given up before Mark did.
In palliative care, we often hear from family members that they're reluctant to talk about painful or difficult issues because it brings up pain and suffering within them, because of the helplessness they feel about what's happening, the fact that they can't do anything about it. All of us are wounded in one way or another, and it's only through our woundedness that we can become healers.
There are still people dying without grace and dignity. Our conversations can change that. Remembering we are human beings, giving and receiving care amidst our vulnerabilities, our fears, and our differences. If this has motivated you to consider your own death and dying, go to www.touchstonelifecare.com. If you want to link up with other people in this space, there's groups in your environment, in your own hometown. Groundswell, Compassionate Communities, Palliative Care Australia, and you can get more information from any of these groups.